You see that face? That's a kind of look that I don't have very often, and it says that we managed to find something awesome. As is often the case when I'm out hiking, the first thing that I always notice are the flowers, of course, like the clematis and penstemon that were blooming at this time, but in this case, on this trip for herping, it didn't even take 10 minutes before we managed to find our first herp, and it was an amazing one to start the trip with. So we're here in the foothills of Colorado. We've only just started hiking, and we have found my first ever western milk snake, Lamprepeltis gentilis. These guys used to be considered a subspecies of the general milk snake, Lamprepeltis triangulum, but with some genetic studies they've actually separated it into different species. So these guys are found kind of sporadically here in the foothills, so it's really lucky that we found him literally just sitting right next to the trail. Other times usually you have to go through flipping rocks and searching under cover and stuff. Especially since it's the middle of the day and he's out and about. So the bands that these guys have here, a lot of people think that this is actually for like coral snake mimicry. Whoops! But coral snakes, of course, don't live in this area, so a more likely explanation is actually the bands are used for what's called the flicker fusion technique, which means as the snake is moving through the grass, moving across the ground, all these alternating bands of extremely high contrast color make it really hard for predators to focus on the snake and figure out which direction it's going. So by the time that they've figured out they need to bite, the snake is already gone. So it's able to run away easily. And he's kind of rattling his tail a little bit here every now and then. This is also a common technique that many snakes around the world use for defense. It's not a mimicry of rattlesnakes, rather it's actually a defense that a lot of snakes have developed, and rattlesnakes just took a step further by developing their own maraca on the end of their tail to ward off predators. So the western milk snake is completely non-venomous. It's a species of king snake, of course, in the genus Lamprepeltis, and these guys often they are lizard and snake specialists, so they will eat other reptiles. Big ones, of course, will also take small rodents, but this species in particular, it especially likes smaller reptiles like lizards as their prey. And those guys are fairly abundant around here. So this one's fairly old, probably a couple years old at least. So young ones, when they're first hatched out through their first year or so, are actually even more brilliant in color. They'll often be bright red and orange with a very pale to almost white background between the black bands. And then as they age, they kind of pale out like this. So these guys, and then a little bit further north where they actually get even paler in color, they're often referred to as the pale milk snake, once also considered a separate subspecies. Current genetics suggest that maybe they're just one variable species, gentilis, but some people will still refer to them as different subspecies of gentilis. So we'll hold this guy for a little bit longer here, and then we'll let him go on his way. As you can probably guess, considering somebody else was filming, I was not the only one who was here on the trip today. So we spent some time, a couple of my other friends, getting pictures as well, since this was also their first western milk snake that they had ever seen in the wild or otherwise. I've been lucky to see them in captivity, but they had never seen one before, period. So they were getting pictures, some videos, and we'll put a few of these up as well for you guys to enjoy, because this is quite simply a beautiful animal that, even for the people who have lived in Colorado all their lives, often we just don't see them. Like my father, who's been here for over 50 years and never seen one in the wild either. Check out the stripes going straight around the belly too here. Yeah, if it's not obvious, I was really happy finding this. My friend Morgan is the one who actually has the good camera, so saving the best for last for the milk snake. Here are his photos. As I mentioned in the previous foothill herping video, this area is simply just a beautiful place to hike around in, so even though we only found that one snake in this particular spot, we stuck around for at least a little while simply enjoying the view and the incredible number of flowers that were out on the hills at this time. Of course, sticking around one spot when you're looking for reptiles and not finding anything generally tends to result in moving on eventually, so between this spot and the next one, we actually stopped for a little bit of lunch and got treated to an entirely different kind of treat.
Hey, technically this is herping.
Birds are reptiles.
Birds are dinosaurs.
See, we'll dive at you too. So.
And thanks, Morgan, for the narration here.
We see here.
Both parents.
We see here the Royal American robin doing bird stuff with birds. They're lovely birds, aren't they?
We didn't spend long at our next stop, but we did manage to find at least one interesting fellow after, of course, looking at the local flowers. Not the dork in the hat, of course, but the adorable guy in his hands. So it might not be a snake, but these guys are still cute to find. Big old Woodhouse's toad. Got a nice lovely stripe right down his back here. I'll try and jump away in a sec.
Look at those eyes.
Toad eyes are beautiful eyes. Very happy bugger here along the river. At our next spot, another place that we visited in the past video, it didn't take long to find something either, and as it turns out, my friends managed to catch a few videos and pictures of not only me going down to catch the snake, but also a few adorable photos once we brought him up to the trail. Alright, second snake of the day. We've got a big old bull snake here. A little grumpy earlier, but he's calmed down a bit now. He's actually just had perhaps a big meal that he just pulled out of a hole down there, so we won't handle him for too long. But you can see, he's got no interest in biting. He just wants to get moving. Bit of a more drab colored guy, probably because he's had his head stuck in a hole all day, so he's all dusty and dirty. Not a nice, pretty, clean pattern on this one, but a beauty nonetheless. Got his meal. Hi, handsome.
We could get another video.
You want a video?
Okay.
Maybe not.
I've freed up enough space.
Now I've got to ask, who's got the derpier expression? Bull snake with his tongue out? Or a wild hawk in his natural environment? Probably me, right? Anyway, moving on from that dork again, some more flowers that we found along the road before we stopped at the cabin that's along this trail again to rest for a while, and I got a video of some other locals that decided to stop by in the nearby field. Probably can't see them very well out there, but there's 4 deer that are feeding in the valley between the ridges. Over by the tree right there, there's at least 2. There's one down in the ditch, and then at least one over on the hill over there. Play Where's Waldo? Finish out the day. Hi Morgan. Hello Bryce.
Hello.
We are finishing out with a little bit of Dairy Queen. It's a good end to the day. Yep, little ice cream to finish out is always a good way to end the day. So, maybe only 2 snakes, but still, when one of them is a milk snake, that makes the whole rest of the day worth it, even if you find nothing else. So, while that may be it for this particular video, there's plenty more to come, so make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on anything coming up, because we'll be visiting Southeast Colorado, a place where there's a lot of other species that you don't find anywhere else in the state. If you want to learn more or help support the making of these videos and other blogs and informational pieces, make sure to visit the links in the description below at www.carltoncarnivores.com. Support us at our Patreon account, or simply if you have questions, leave a comment below. Find us on social media at Carlton Carnivores. And until next time, I'm Hawken Carlton at Carlton Carnivores.